My name is Brooke Anderson and I'm 34 years old. 6 months ago I thought I knew everything about my family. I was wrong. What I discovered in my mother's attic didn't just change my understanding of who she was. It saved my daughter's life. For my entire childhood, my mother Patricia was the definition of strength. She raised me alone after my father died in a car accident when I was 3. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and stocking shelves at the grocery store during the day, just to keep us afloat in our tiny apartment in Cleveland. Mom never complained, never showed weakness. When I got sick, she'd somehow find money for medicine. When I needed new shoes for school, she'd work extra shifts. When I cried about not having a dad like the other kids, she'd hold me and say, "We don't need anyone else, Brooke. We have each other and that's enough." He was my hero. Even after I grew up, got married and had my own daughter Sophia, now 7, Mom remained that pillar of strength. She'd babysit Sophia every weekend, always perfectly put together, always knowing exactly what to say or do. But last December everything changed. Mom had been acting strange for months. She'd forget things mid-conversation, repeat the same stories, and sometimes she'd stare at me like she was trying to remember who I was. My husband Mark kept saying it was just aging, but I knew something was wrong. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Mom's neighbor, Mrs. Chin, had found her wandering the street in her nightgown at 6 a.m., confused and unable to remember her address. The doctor's words hit me like a physical blow. Early onset Alzheimer's, progressing faster than usual. Your mother needs immediate care, Dr. Martinez explained. Living alone is no longer safe. She'll need to move into a memory care facility within the next few months. I felt my world crumbling. This woman who had been my rock, my constant, was slipping away. And I had no idea how to help her hold on to herself. Cleaning out Mom's house was supposed to be practical. Sorting through decades of belongings, deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. But when I climbed into her attic on a cold Saturday morning in January, I found something that made me question everything I thought I knew about my mother. Hidden behind old Christmas decorations wrapped in a faded pink blanket, was a wooden box I'd never seen before. Inside were dozens of letters, photographs, and documents that told a story Mom had never shared with me. The first letter was dated March 15, 1987, just 2 months before I was born. It was from someone named James, and it wasn't a casual correspondence. "My dearest Patricia," it began, "I understand why you had to make this choice, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. I want you to know that I'll always love you and the baby no matter what happens. If you ever change your mind, if you ever want to tell her the truth, I'll be here. I'll always be here." My hands shook as I read further. There were medical records, birth certificates, and a photograph that made my breath catch in my throat. It was a picture of Mom in the hospital holding a newborn baby, me, but she wasn't alone. There was a man beside her, holding her hand, looking at both of us with such love and tenderness that it made my chest ache. This wasn't the father I'd grown up believing had died in a car accident. This was someone else entirely. The truth unraveled slowly as I read letter after letter. James Morrison, a teacher at the local high school, had been having an affair with Mom while she was married to the man I'd always thought was my father. When she got pregnant, she wasn't sure who the biological father was. But when her husband, my supposed father, died in that car accident, she was 3 months pregnant and facing a terrible choice. She could tell the truth and face the scandal of admitting the affair, or she could let everyone believe the baby was her deceased husband's child. She chose the lie, and she'd been living with it for 34 years. But the letters didn't stop there. James had tried to stay in contact for years. He'd sent birthday cards, Christmas presents, even college fund contributions, all of which Mom had apparently returned. In letter after letter, he begged her to let him be part of my life, to let me know the truth. The last letter was dated just 2 years ago. "Patricia, I'm 65 now and I'm not getting any younger. I have a medical condition that runs in my family, and I need Brooke to know about it. It could affect her daughter someday. Please, I'm begging you, let me tell her the truth. It's not just about me anymore, it's about her child's health." I sat in that dusty attic, surrounded by the debris of my mother's secret, and realized that everything I thought I knew about my family was built on a lie. But more terrifying than the deception was the mention of a medical condition. What was James talking about? What did Sophia need to know? Finding James Morrison should have been impossible after 34 years, but social media is a powerful tool. Within 2 hours of discovering the letters, I'd tracked him down to a small town in Michigan, about 4 hours from Cleveland. He was retired now, living alone, and according to his Facebook profile, he'd never married. I stared at his photo for a long time. He had my eyes. The same green eyes I'd passed down to Sophia. How had I never noticed that neither Mom nor my supposed father had green eyes? The phone call was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. "Mr. Morrison?" I said when he answered. "This is Brooke Anderson. I think you knew my mother, Patricia Henderson." The silence on the other end was so long I thought he'd hung up. Then I heard him take a shaky breath. "Brooke," he whispered. "Is it really you?" "I found the letters," I said. "All of them. And I need to know about the medical condition you mentioned." Within an hour I was driving to Michigan, my heart pounding with every mile. James had agreed to meet me, but his voice on the phone carried an urgency that terrified me. When I arrived at his small house, the man who opened the door was unmistakably my father. Not just the eyes, the shape of his face, the way he held his shoulders, even his nervous habit of running his hand through his hair. It was like looking at a male version of myself. "You're beautiful," he said, tears streaming down his face. "Just like your mother said you'd be." We talked for 3 hours. James told me about the love affair, about the impossible choice Mom had faced, about the years of wondering about me. But then he told me about the medical condition and everything else became secondary. "It's called Huntington's disease," he said. "It's genetic and it's what killed my father and my sister. I've been tested, I don't have it, thank God. But there's a 50% chance I could have passed the gene to you, and if you have it, there's a 50% chance you've passed it to Sophia." My blood ran cold. "What does it do?" "It's a degenerative brain disease. It affects movement, cognitive ability, and emotional control. Symptoms usually start in the 30s or 40s, but they can appear earlier. The thing is, Brooke, there's a blood test. We can know for sure. And if Sophia has the gene, there are experimental treatments now that might help if we catch it early." I felt the room spinning. "Are you saying my daughter might have inherited a fatal brain disease?" "I'm saying we need to find out. And we need to find out now." The next few weeks were a blur of genetic counseling, blood tests, and the most agonizing weight of my life. I hadn't told Mark about James yet. I was still processing the fact that my entire identity had been built on a lie. But I had to tell him about the potential genetic condition. "A genetic test?" Mark said, confusion written all over his face. "Brooke, what aren't you telling me?" So I told him everything. About the letters, about James, about the possibility that our daughter might have inherited a degenerative disease from a grandfather she'd never met. Mark was quiet for a long time, then he pulled me into his arms. "Whatever happens," he said, "we'll face it together. But first we need to know." The call came on a Thursday morning. I was making Sophia's lunch for school when Dr. Kim called with the test results. "Brooke, I have good news and difficult news," she said. "Your test came back positive for the Huntington's gene." "I'm sorry." I sat down hard, my legs giving out. "And Sophia?" "Sophia's test is negative. She doesn't have the gene. She'll never develop Huntington's disease." I started sobbing, relief for my daughter mixed with terror for myself. I had the gene that would eventually destroy my brain, but my baby was safe. "There's something else," Dr. Kim continued. "The experimental treatment program I mentioned, you're a perfect candidate. Because we caught it early before symptoms appear, there's a real chance we can slow or even prevent the progression. You'll be part of a clinical trial that could change everything for people with Huntington's." That afternoon I drove to see Mom at the memory care facility. She was having a good day, alert and mostly present, though she sometimes forgot where she was. "Mom," I said, holding her hands, "I know about James. I know about the letters." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Brooke. I thought I was protecting you." "You were protecting me," I said. "But now I need to protect myself, and I can because I know the truth." I told her about the genetic test, about the treatment program, about how her secret might have actually saved my life because now I could get help before symptoms appeared. "I wish I'd told you sooner," she whispered. "You told me when I needed to know," I said. "You always took care of me, Mom. Even when you were keeping secrets." The hardest conversation was with Sophia. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mommy might get sick someday, but that the doctors are going to try to keep her healthy? "Are you going to forget me like Grandma sometimes forgets?" Sophia asked, her lip trembling. "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen," I promised. And even if I do get sick, I will never stop loving you. Never. Today, 8 months later, I'm part of a groundbreaking clinical trial. The experimental treatment involves monthly infusions of a drug that targets the specific protein that causes Huntington's disease. Early results are promising. In some patients, the treatment has completely stopped the progression of the disease. James and I have built a relationship slowly. He's Sophia's grandfather now, and she adores him. He teaches her piano and tells her stories about her grandmother Patricia that I never knew. Mark was initially skeptical, but he's come to love James too. Mom's condition has worsened, but she has moments of clarity where she remembers everything. In those moments, she tells me she's proud of me for being brave enough to face the truth. The secret that Mom kept for 34 years, the secret that caused her so much pain, turned out to be the thing that saved my life. If I hadn't found those letters, if I hadn't learned about the genetic condition, I might have developed symptoms without knowing what was happening. I might have passed the gene to Sophia without ever knowing she needed testing and potential treatment. Sometimes the things we're most afraid to face are the things that end up saving us. Sometimes the truth we're most scared to tell is the truth someone desperately needs to hear. My mother spent 34 years carrying the weight of a secret she thought would destroy our family. But in the end, that secret was the key to giving me a future I might not have had otherwise. The letters are in my safe now, along with photos of James and me, and medical records that might someday help other families facing Huntington's disease. Sophia asks to see them sometimes, fascinated by the story of how her grandfather loved her grandmother so much that he waited 34 years just to meet his daughter. That's what love looks like, I tell her. Love that waits, love that hopes, love that never gives up. I don't know what the future holds. The clinical trial might work or it might not. But I know that whatever happens, I'll face it with the truth, surrounded by people who love me, including a father I never knew I had and a daughter who will never have to carry the genetic burden that I do. Mom's secret taught me that sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set us free. And sometimes the people we're trying to protect end up being the ones who save us. If this story touched your heart, please share it. You never know who might need to hear about the power of truth, the importance of genetic testing, or the hope that exists even in the darkest situations. Leave a comment below about a time when a difficult truth changed your life for the better. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember that secrets have power, but truth has the power to transform everything.